The inspectors general who Donald Trump fired in a Friday night massacre, they're striking back. They're prepared for litigation. They are ready to fight Donald Trump. They are saying that the terminations were unlawful. They were saying these are positions that were appointed and confirmed by the United States Senate. The law required a 30-day notice period if they were going to be terminated, and there had to be written justification that there was good cause to terminate these watchdogs who oversee the departments and agencies to make sure that there's no malfeasance, fraud, criminality, waste, and misconduct. They said that the notice requirement was violated. They did nothing wrong. There was no justification to terminate them for a cause. They're not leaving, and they suggest that Donald Trump and the White House counsel look over the regulations because they're prepared to fight, they're prepared to sue, and they're prepared to not go away without a fight. I love that people are fighting back, and these jobs are so pivotal. One of the things you'll remember from my reporting on Friday night, when this Friday night termination massacre by Donald Trump took place, was that a lot of these inspector generals were appointed by Donald Trump. These were Trump appointees and holdovers from Donald Trump's first term. So the fact that Donald Trump wanted to get rid of his own people because he believed his own people were not sufficiently loyal to him, and their loyalty was trying to guard the independence of their positions to try to avoid fraud, waste, criminality. That they came as a shock to many of those inspectors generals who Trump fired. It shouldn't. He fired about 17 on Friday night. And one of the comments they've been making on background to a lot of the press is, but Donald Trump said he wanted to get rid of fraud and waste and stop overspending at these departments and agencies. So why would he get rid of us? Because he doesn't want that. All he wants is to make the government Trumpy. He wants to be an authoritarian. But I'm at least glad these inspector generals are fighting back. The Council of the Inspectors General on Integrity and Efficiency, the group that kind of represents all of these inspectors general, they sent a letter to the White House, to the Director of Presidential Personnel, Sergio Gore. He was the individual who shot off these termination emails. And they said, we're fighting. We're going to fight you, Donald. We're going to fight you, Gore. Here's what they say. Dear Mr. Gore, I'm writing in response to your email sent to me and other inspectors general earlier this evening, wherein you informed each of us that, quote, due to changing priorities, your position as inspector general is terminated effective immediately. As chairperson of the Council of the Inspectors General on Integrity and Efficiency, the CIGIE, that's the organization that represents all of these inspectors general, I recommend that you reach out to the White House counsel to discuss your intended course of action. At this point, we do not believe the actions taken are legally sufficient to dismiss presidentially appointed, Senate-confirmed inspectors general, specifically based upon the 2022 amendments to the Inspector General Act of 1978. The president must notify Congress 30 days prior to removal of an inspector general and provide, quote, substantive rationale, including detailed and case-specific reasons for such removal. That's in the code 5 U.S.C. 403 sub B, as amended by section 502 sub A of the Securing Inspector General Independence Act of 2022. The requirement to provide the substantive rationale, including detailed and case-specific reasons, was added to better enable Congress to engage on and respond to a proposed removal of an inspector general in order to protect the independence of inspectors general. Should you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at, and then it has an email. Now, this was passed in 2022 during the Biden administration. How is this even able to be passed? You're wondering if Congress would struggle to get, certain things done at all. Well, I mean, it's not necessarily the case, right? In the first term, the Biden administration got done a lot of things, but also if you looked, the CHIPS Act, the PACT Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, the Infrastructure Act, I could go, the CHIPS Act, I could go on and on and on. But Donald Trump, towards the end of his first administration, terminated inspectors general, and he did it kind of without any consultation, without any justification. So people were anticipating this back in 2022. And Republicans, some of them went along with it as well, because they said, well, that constrains President Biden's ability to get rid of inspectors general who Trump appointed. So in many ways, this was both to safeguard against situations like what Donald Trump tried to pull last night. And when Trump pulled what he did last night, it violated this law very clearly. But it was also an effort by some Republicans to keep the Trump people in place. But what did Donald Trump then do? He then fired his own people and violated the law. It's why you can't give Donald Trump an inch, because Trump will take your life. You'll remember what we reported. Washington Post reported, New York Times reported. This was the Friday night termination massacre where 17 inspectors generals were fired in a late night purge. It talked about how these individuals who play a crucial role in identifying fraud, waste, and abuse in the government were identified as not being sufficiently loyal to Donald Trump. And so because they didn't pass some arbitrary loyalty test, even though Trump appointed them, they had to go. They were notified by emails, as you just saw in that source document that I just provided. The inspectors generals, they have staffs. Sometimes they have staffs of 50, 100. Some inspectors generals have staffs of like 1,000 people who are always monitoring these agencies to make sure that crimes and fraud are not taking place. It doesn't mean they stop all of it. It doesn't mean they stop a lot of it, but they're a watchdog embedded in these agencies as this independent oversight to try to stop that from happening. So the Defense Department, State Department, Transportation, Labor, Health and Human Services, Veteran Affairs, Housing and Urban Development, Interior, Energy, Commerce, Agriculture, the Environmental Protection Agency, Small Business Administration, and Social Security Administration. Basically, every big agency where there was an inspectors general, Trump fired those inspectors generals, and now they're all fighting back. It talks about how the Inspector General for the Treasury Department as well. It talks about how most of the individuals who were fired were holdovers from Trump's first term. And then you just saw the response that a lot of those individuals gave. The Inspector Generals were referring to this as a widespread massacre. Whoever Trump's put in now will not be viewed as an independent check, will be viewed as just a Trump lackey. Trump does not want anybody who will in any way be independent. And I think one of the things that is important, and we talked about this in our reporting yesterday, Senator Chuck Grassley, he's been one of the biggest proponents of these kind of independent watchdogs, these inspectors general. And why did Trump wait until Friday night to do it versus do it with all of his executive orders? Well, Trump was waiting for Pete Hegseth, who is completely unqualified, to be confirmed first as the Secretary of Defense by the Senate. Once Hegseth was confirmed, then the massacre took place. Hegseth does not belong anywhere near the Defense Department, yet alone to actually be the leader. He's never led an organization in his life successfully, or an organization larger than 100 people. He's never commanded a group of soldiers before. I mean, what in the world is even going on there? But that's why Trump waited until Friday night. What I am interested to see, will this have a ripple effect on the future confirmation hearings? We know now that Mitch McConnell will join with two other Republicans, and they will be voting against likely Trump's most egregious picks. But that's why it was a 50-50 tie with Hegseth. J.D. Vance broke the vote, broke the tie. And the question is will now any of these other Republicans, any of them seeing that now there's no inspector generals, will that change their mind at all as well? But expect massive litigation here. These inspector generals, we're not leaving. we'll see what happens. We'll keep you posted every step of the way. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 4 million subscribers.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.